Howdy, folks. It's John Robert, and it's story time. I know that some of you love story time, and I haven't done one in a while, so I figured I would pull one out of the sack and continuing the long tradition of stories of Jean Robert's misspent youth. Now, this story has some adult themes and swearing later on, so if that sort of thing offends you, stop watching. For those of you who don't give a shit, howdy. So, this story we're going to call My Day as a Bull. I know what some of you are thinking, and you should stop it. Get off of those websites, you'll go blind. Also, they cause incredible lag when I try and log on to them, so stop it. Anyway, this story goes way back to 1993 at Pagan Spirit Gathering. Yep, I'm adding sound effects now. I figure you deserve any little extra for the amount of money you're not paying. Anyway, 1993. A gentleman, one of the Keltria Druids, named David Strange, no, he's not a doctor. He taught high school chemistry. Still might for all I know. Gave a talk on the Tonbo Cooley, also known as the cattle raid of Cooley. If you haven't heard of it, I'm not terribly surprised. If I were to sum it up in a few words, it is a story of everything would have been fine if the help would have kept their damn mouth shut. But that's a rant for another time. In a few more words, the Tonbo Cooley is the heroic tale of how the hero Cuchulainn had saved the province of Ulster from a raid while the Ulstermen were incapacitated by a curse. Now, this story is full of small little details like, and Seamus had taunted Cuchulainn, and Cuchulainn in his fury picked up a rock and threw it, and it caught Seamus square in the face, turned his face inside out, and his brain squirted out of his ears. And that's why we call this crick Squished Face Crick. You may think I'm exaggerating. I am not. But that's a rant for another time. Anyhow, as he gave this lecture, he explained why cattle raids were so important during that time period, because cattle in the Irish culture were a symbol of wealth and status. What other attendees had taken from this was, hey, what are symbols of wealth and status here at PSG? And they decided on picnic tables, and hence began the picnic table raids of PSG. Or at least it happened until the organizers and security went, no, stop that shit right now. And they did. But the next year, people brought lots of little stuffed cows to keep in their camp so that they could do their own cattle raids. Being in Heretic Camp, not knowing about the cattle raids ahead of time, a friend of mine and myself decided we could top this. We could do better. And so with some brown and white paint, Talon, we painted ourselves up as bulls. That's right. Now, Talon allowed himself to be chased all over camp by young men. I had no interest in being chased around camp by young men. I did, however, have great interest in having the Keltria women lure me over to their camp with chocolate and back rubs and sweet talk. It reminded me of an old joke. Once upon a time, an old bull and a young bull stood on top of a hill overlooking the herd of cows down in the valley. And the young bull looks at the old bull and says, "Hey, how about we run down there and fuck a cow?" And the old bull goes, "How about we walk down and fuck 'em all?" That was the difference between Talon and myself. I, for the most part, hung around the Kiltrea camp, letting the ladies of Kiltrea dote on me, feed me, stroke my back, do everything they could to keep me from wandering away and keep me in camp. And this was a wonderful plan, or at least it was until another camp had come in and started stealing the little stuffed cows that they had. And everyone jumped up and ran after them to try and get the little cows back. Well, that left me alone. No one was feeding me chocolate. No one was rubbing my back. No one was telling me what a wonderful bull I was. And so I got up and I started to wander. And it was a few minutes until I heard somewhere in the background, "Where the hell's our bull?" And they were running around looking for me. And I really shouldn't have been that hard to find, because really I was one of only 2 people who had large white and brown splotches painted on me. And I was the one who wasn't running around like an idiot. Eventually, ignore that. Eventually, a lovely woman named Dr. Dorothy, some of you may know her, some of you don't, probably most of you don't, had seen me and said, "Oh, I know what you're doing. Let's keep you away from those terrible Kiltrea folks. Come with me over to my camp. In fact, why don't you come on into my tent?" I had no problem with this. And it was a warm day to begin with. And it was very sunny. And I sweated off the paint. However, some of you may see this one coming. I had a very uneven sunburn. In fact, you could still tell where all the painted brown and white splotches were. And so for a very long time, I had a wonderful saga of how the gods had one day turned me into a bull, and a beautiful goddess had taken pity upon me and turned me back to human, but left me with markings to remind me of the lesson of my day as a bull. And that's the end of the story and the beginning of another that has not started yet. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.